So number one, what did you say? It is difference of squares. You've got two perfect squares that are being subtracted. That one would be difference of squares. What about number two? They both have 8x, right? So I could use the greatest common factor method for that one. What about number three? A trinomial, and a is only 1x squared, so I would use just the diamond, right? What about number four? Dose. Difference of squares, right? Again, two perfect squares with a subtraction sign. I don't know, because I felt like it was hard to see if I just did the box. Do you want me to? That's what you did, like this, 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 this. I know. Okay, let's see. Who thinks they got number 5, 6, 7, and 8 all the way across 100% correct? Call and take a shot at it. Wait, 6, what did you say? It's greatest common factor because it's 9x. So you can't use difference of squares if this is not a constant. And then what did you say for 7? Just the diamond, yep. And then 8 is prime. That was the one because it is two perfect squares, but you've got a plus sign with no greatest common factor. Okay. Who thinks they want to take a shot at that next row? You think you got them all correct, 9 through 12. Orion, you want to take a shot at it? What you got? Well, I call it just diamond number 9. Literally, well, it actually did. On number 9, did anyone write prime? Probably not, because I did not tell you to factor it, but it's sticking out to me. Can I find any factors of 1 that would add up to -3? Yeah. If you circle diamond, that is the method I would try first, but then I'm realizing in my head it actually would be prime, because 1 times 1 is only 1. So it actually is prime, but if you circle diamond, that is the method we would try, and then we would realize I'm stuck, I can't go past the diamond. Okay, number 10, what'd you say, Orion? It is difference of squares. 11, diamond again. 12, diamond again. So there are 3 terms, and then the A value is 1 sitting in the front. And then who wants to take a shot at the last row? Poppy, you're going for it. I would accept box as an answer, but what is also an answer that you could do first? Because if you do greatest common factor, this is going to get pulled out front, and now you'll just have x squared. So you wouldn't have to do the box, you could just do the diamond, right? Minus 2x plus 2. This, though, I think is primed to go any further. So yeah, if you said box, I would give it to you. I think greatest common factor would make your life easier on that one, but you could still get to the right answer. What'd you say for 14, Poppy? Oh. What did someone say for 14? I would try DOS, but what's the problem with 14? 5's not a perfect square, so this one must be prime. 15 is a GCF, and 16, it's the 6x squared one, so that one needs the box for the trinomial. I mean, out of those 16 questions, would your brain know what to do on 14 out of the 16 of them? Because I feel like that's a good thing to do again. You could use this as a review sheet. You just cover it up with a piece of paper. You know, if you flip this, you could just go like this. All right, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me see if I can figure out those methods. All right, difference of squares, how do I do it? So there is a back page, but I'm going to skip the back page right now because we've done a lot of factoring practice, and I wanted to jump to page 309 and do a little bit of just mixed practice. Actually, the back of 309 is where I wanted to start. I feel like we've done the least amount on the back page of 309. This is the back of 309. The front page has factoring. If we have time before lunch, we're going to do a little bit more factoring, and then after lunch, I have a quiz review sheet. What? So it's just like another kind of short quiz, and then we'll do more review, and then, you know, Thursday's another day of review. So you should be good on this unit by Friday, I'm hoping. And this will be the last test that goes in this quarter, and you have all next week if you still need to retake it because grades close the 7th. So test on Friday, but you have a whole week to redo it. Okay, so these directions say find the solution by taking square roots. On your test, it'll just say, solve the quadratic using any method. But on the quiz tomorrow, it'll say, solve by taking square roots. So don't try to factor it. Don't use the quadratic formula. You have to do that method. To solve with square roots, your goal is to get what is the x squared term by itself on the left side. So what would I move over to the right? How do I get x squared by itself in number 9? This is Babaka 309. I'm not doing 311. 311 on the back, there's more practice, but I'm skipping to 309 to do a little bit of each type before lunch. And then after lunch, you can work in partners and work on like a practice quiz. And then I can come around and help some of you catch up. So what do I do first on number 9? I got to get x squared by itself. So I'm subtracting 4 and I get x squared equals 32. How do I get x by itself now? This is the solve by taking square roots part. You take the square root of both sides. You say that you get plus or minus, because you always get 2 solutions when you take the square root. And square root of 32, I would accept that answer, but for full credit, reduce radical form this guy. So I think about backwards from, let's say, 36. 5 squared, 4 squared, 3 squared, 2 squared, 1 squared. I can't put 36 into 32. Could I put 25 into 32 evenly? Could I put 16 into 32 evenly? So 16 is the one you want to use. 16, oops, I should write it up here. 16 times 2. And then how do I make the reduced radical form? I take the square root and I get what? 4 times the square root of 2. All right, using a calculator, because you might not know what 338 divided by 2 is. Could you try to solve number 10 using the exact same steps we just used? Yeah, the calculators are kind of all over the place. They're like 5 on this stuff. You keep one. Can you come over here? You like using that one, okay? No, okay. All right. So you've got one. You've got one. There's no one sitting here. Crazy, didn't need one? What? No. That's all I got. Well, there's a couple more dinosaurs over here. You need dinosaurs? This one, Arthur. You need one, Need one? Do I have one more? Does everybody have something? What? You don't need it? Oh, great. Who still doesn't have a calculator at their desk? Everybody has one? You can trade, but I'll take yours. That way I can use one up here. What is 338 divided by 2? Okay, so I add the 338. So I get 2x squared equals 338. Divide by 2, x squared is 169. Hopefully, you might not recognize that that's a perfect square, but you at least try to take the square root first, because that's just 13. Here's the mistake that I commonly see students write. X equals plus or minus the square root of 13. It's not the square root of 13. It's exactly 13 as an integer. So make sure if you take the all out, you took the square root, now the square root of 169 is just 13, no square root not needed. All right, and then number 11 looks a little bit different, but it still says solve by taking square roots. So your goal is to get this circled part by itself. How do I move that 9 to the other side? And what is a number divided by itself? It's not 0, it's 1. All right, so now how do I take the next step? Take the square root. What's the square root of 1 over here? 1. So because you're going to get an integer, you're going to want to write out that x minus 1 equals positive 1, and then a little statement, x minus 1 equals negative 1. So instead of writing plus or minus 1, sometimes it's helpful to write out two separate equations, because then you can add 1 to solve for x in both of those equations. So this one, x would equal positive 2 as one of your answers. And in this one, what would x equal? So I'm taking negative 1, but then I'm adding 1 to the other side, right? So x would equal 0. So 2 or 0. So solve by taking square roots. Maybe that one is easier for you than factoring. I don't know. Question? Yes. All right, so let's write down kind of over here. You're going to be given the quadratic formula on the test or quiz. The opposite of b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Your first step. So I will do 12 and then you can try 13. I want you to notice that this is in standard form and it is equal to 0. If it's not in standard form, A, B, C, you have to put it in standard form. If it's not equal to 0, like let's just pretend if this was equal to 10, I can't do the quadratic formula. First step, I would have to subtract 10, make this guy a negative 7, and then I've got it blah, blah, blah equals 0. Both of these, they already are equal to 0. So I can just set up. What is A? A is 1. B is negative 18 and C is 3. And the directions on the quiz will be solve using the quadratic formula, but on the test it might just say solve the quadratic. When do you think you'd want to use the quadratic? If I just said solve this by any method, why would you not want to use square roots? Because of this x term. When you take the square root of both sides, that's going to be a problem. Would you try factoring maybe? Which method could I try with factoring? The diamond. But are there any factors of 3 that add up to negative 18? 3 is prime, so it's just 1 times 3. So I can already see this is not factorable. Can't use square roots. Maybe I could try graphing it, right? Do negative b over 2a and find the vertex and then figure out the x-intercepts. So you want to use the quadratic formula when your other methods fail. So let's see, I do the opposite of b. So that would become positive 18 plus or minus the square root of. I always do this step on my calculator. So what is 18 squared? Because negative 18 times negative 18 will be positive. So it's 324. That's b squared minus 4. A is 1. C is 3. All over 2a would be 2. 324. That's 18 squared. Okay, who can simplify what's going on under that radical for me without using a calculator? 324 minus 4 times 1 times 3. 4 times 1 times 3 is an easy number. What number is that? 12. So I'm taking 324 and subtracting 12. So how much would I have? 24 minus 12 is 12. So I would have 18 plus or minus the square root of 312 divided by 2. Does anybody remember the name of this number that we learned last week? It starts with a D. It's called the discriminant. It's not discriminate, it's the discriminant. And it tells you how many solutions or x-intercepts there will be. If I've got positive 312, how many x-intercepts do you think my graph has? Does it have 0, 2, or 1? It has 2 x-intercepts because plus root 312 and minus root 312 are 2 different numbers when you add that to 18. You could leave your answer at that step. You could solve with your calculator for what the decimal would be. I don't know if 312 is a reduced radical. Oh, I can divide it by 4, but can I divide it by any other number? 78 doesn't divide by 4, does it? So it looks like 312 is divisible by 4. 4 times 78. So it would be 18 plus or minus 2 root 78 divided by 2. Oh, actually, let's go one more step, because on the SAT, you're never going to see that as an answer. What do you think they would do to simplify that one more step? 18 plus or minus 2 root 78 over 2. What do you think they could do to reduce this one more step? Nope. Divide everything by this 2. So you probably will never see that as an answer. I would totally accept that. If you got there on your quiz tomorrow, I would be so happy that you could write it in using the quadratic formula. You'd probably see them write it as 9 plus minus the square root of 78. Because 18 divided by 2 is 9 and 2 divided by 2 is 1. All right, you're going to try number 13. So you're going to do the quadratic formula on number 13. Sorry if I didn't leave you enough room. Set up what A, B, and C are. And then plug it in over here. What? On which one? Solve using the quadratic formula. So you're finding what x is. But you could leave your answer like this. That is what x is. 9 plus the square root of 78, 9 minus the square root of 78. You guys know where to start? Set up what is A, B, and C. Do your very best to put it into that expression and simplify it. Oh, this is the homework. Oh, what did you guys do? I didn't grade anything. Was it a quiz retake on factoring? No, but I will pull those out and look at them right during lunch and give it back. I also, if you guys gave me stuff on whatever day, I didn't put anything in. What's that breaking distance problem? And then see if you could come up with one for number 14 if you're waiting to go on. I'll put up the answer to the quadratic formula one right before we go to lunch here. See if you can do it. Oh, here we go. It was, this is a homework. He let you go to lunch early? No. Okay. I see how it is. Oh, this is homework 3-5. These are homework. Is it the quadratic formula problem? Oh, the answer, are you writing it as a decimal or as, oh, let me see. I didn't write mine down yet. The opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. What's the thing under the square root going to be? 64 plus 4 times 2 times 18. So square root of 208. Negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 208. Is that what you got to start with? Is that what it is, under the square root? 208. Isn't that what you got? No, I know. So what I have to do, negative 8 plus the square root of 208. I'm checking your answer. Divided by 4. Did you get 1.61 as one of your decimal answers? Oh, hold on. Negative 8 minus the square root of 208. I'm just checking Joey's answer because he divided by 4. Negative 5.61. Did you get, what are you typing into your calculator? Are you typing in negative 8? Oh, let me cover this part up right here. I don't know. There's my 2 possible answers. I think 208 might reduce, but I just left it as square root of 208. Because it's b squared minus 4ac. That turns into 208 under the radical. It'll probably be reduced this radical, and I don't think they asked quadratic formula at all on the FAQ. It'll probably be like if you use it as a method to find your answers, they would be factorable problems. They just want factoring. Yeah, so that is the 208. Now you need to do the rest of the problem. Like you did this part. This is what you have so far. Now you need to do this and then divide by this. You only did the just the radical. You didn't do the rest of the thing. So do people need help on that one? And we're going to lunch? Negative 8. The opposite of base in the formula.
Not really.
And then that would give you 2. I met your mom, but I was like, oh, I should know who you are because I had I don't think the picture that that was me crying because I had. I just wanted to show, in case you were trying this review sheet, these last 2 problems. Something that has no x-intercepts would be like a quadratic that's being lifted up above the axis. So maybe something like x squared plus 4. But there'd be like lots of other options. Solve by graphing. So I would go right 2 down 4. And then this is concave up over 1 up 1 over 2 up 4. So I could record my x-intercept as 0 or 4 as my solutions.